My daughter asked me to sell my car to support her wedding. When I refused, she blocked me and said I wasn't invited to her wedding. 2 weeks later, she invited me to a reconciliation dinner. When I showed up, she was with 2 lawyers and my ex-wife. What happened next was rather unbelievable. I will tell you how everything unfolded. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Jeffrey Norberg. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. My name's Frank Dalton, if you want the full of it. I'm 61, semi-retired after 33 years in municipal construction, living in a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Cincinnati. It ain't much, but it's mine. I've kept it up myself since the divorce, and even now, I still do the lawn on Sundays and fix whatever breaks before it can become a problem. My pride and joy, though? A 1998 Lincoln Town car I bought off a friend's cousin in near-mint condition. She runs smooth, and I keep her that way. That car's been my escape, my therapist, and on too many nights to count, my only company. I didn't think it would be the hill I had to die on with my daughter, but that's where this story begins. Samantha, my only child. My little girl who used to wear my t-shirts as pajamas and ask me every Friday night if we could do pancakes again tomorrow, Daddy. Her mother, Linda, and I split when Sam was 9. The usual, irreconcilable differences, distant affections, a marriage running cold long before the paperwork caught up. She got the apartment downtown and a rebound boyfriend within 6 months. I got custody every other weekend, summers, and what felt like the entire emotional weight of raising a child in a fractured home. I gave Sam everything I could, not always in money, but in time. Homework help, home-cooked meals, dance recitals I never missed, even when I worked double shifts. I tried to be the parent she could count on, stable, even if not exciting. And I thought I'd done okay. Sure, as she got older, things changed. She started leaning more toward her mother's lifestyle. Flashier, more social, more expensive. But I thought it was just a phase. Then came the phone call. It was a Wednesday afternoon, 2 months ago. I'd just come back from picking up oil filters and windshield wipers for the Lincoln. I was settling in with a sandwich when my phone rang. Her name popped up, Sammy Girl. The nickname's still in my contacts out of habit, maybe hope. Hey, sweetie, I said, smiling before I even heard her voice. Dad, she started, skipping all the pleasantries. I need a really big favor. Her tone was light, but tight. Nervous, maybe. I leaned back on the couch. What's up? So, you know the wedding's coming up. And, well, it's getting a little out of hand. Budget-wise. I mean, it's my dream day, Dad, and I just didn't realize how fast everything would add up. I already knew where this was going. My stomach tightened. She continued. Anyway, I was thinking the car. The Lincoln. It's worth a good bit, right? Maybe 10, 15 grand. If you sold it now, I bet you could get close to that. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared out the window at the driveway, where that pale blue beauty sat gleaming under the afternoon sun. You want me to sell my car, I finally said, slow and quiet. To help pay for your wedding? Well, yeah. I mean, it's just sitting there. It's not like you needed to get to work anymore. And you always said you'd do anything for me. That line hit me harder than I expected. It was the tone. The way she said it, like a trapdoor had opened beneath me. Like doing anything meant I had no say. Samantha, I said, steady but firm. I'm not selling the Lincoln. There was a pause. Why not? Because that car means something to me. And more than that, it's mine. I worked for it. I kept it running. I kept us running. Even when your mom was off doing God knows what with God knows who. You want a nice wedding? Fine. But I won't be guilted into giving up the one thing I've got left just so you can rent swans and pay for Instagram photos. She went silent again, but this time it wasn't thoughtful, it was cold. So that's your final answer? It is. She hung up without another word. I stared at the phone in disbelief. An hour later, when I tried calling her back, I got a message saying my number was blocked. Blocked. My daughter. My only child. Just like that. I sat there, stunned, until the sun dipped low and the sandwich I made sat untouched beside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the kind of silence that feels like it's pressing down on your chest, inch by inch, until you can barely breathe. The next day, I checked Facebook. Her status was still public. Can't believe some people choose objects over family. Weddings reveal people's true priorities. The comments poured in, mostly from Linda's side. One cousin offered to start a GoFundMe. Another said, "You don't need toxic people on your big day." And there it was, in black and white. I was toxic. I was uninvited. I was erased. I didn't respond. Not online, not in texts, not even when my sister called and said, "You should at least try again." I didn't need to try. I already had. My entire life had been trying. For her, for the idea that love and loyalty would always be enough. Turns out, it wasn't. The days that followed were thick with a silence that didn't feel natural. Not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something heavier. Something pressing. My house had always been quiet. No one to answer to. No kids running down the hall. No partner asking where the hell I put the keys. I used to enjoy it, used to think silence meant peace. But after Samantha blocked me, it felt more like punishment. I'd reach for my phone without thinking, reflexively checking for a text, a call, even a forwarded meme. But nothing came. Just the usual promotional emails and a missed call from a roofing company I'd told to lose my number 3 weeks earlier. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my coworkers I still met up with for darts on Thursdays, not the mailman I chatted with some mornings. Shame has a way of sealing your lips even when you know, deep down, you did the right thing. I told myself that. Over and over. You did the right thing, Frank. But if I'd really believed it, why did I keep checking my damn phone like a high schooler waiting to be asked to prom? My sister, Elaine, was the first one to confront me. She showed up unannounced on a Friday, holding a grocery bag with 2 six-packs and a frozen pizza. She walked in like she still had a key. She didn't, and immediately went to the freezer. "You look like someone died," she said, not unkindly. "Might as well have," I mumbled, sinking deeper into my recliner. She raised an eyebrow. "Sam still hasn't called." "Nope. Frank." She blocked me. On everything. Elaine didn't say anything for a moment. Just preheated the oven, cracked open a beer, and sat across from me. She didn't press like some people might. She just waited. Eventually, I spoke. She asked me to sell the Lincoln. Elaine whistled low. "For the wedding?" I nodded. And when I said no, she cut me off like I was never anything more than a piggy bank. Elaine's expression darkened. "Linda's got her claws in again. I saw them at brunch a few weeks ago. Matching purses, same fake laugh. It was eerie. She used to be better than this," I said quietly. "I raised her better than this. No one's saying you didn't." She didn't even argue. Just blocked me. Like I was nothing. Elaine looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You should go see her." I shot her a look. "No," she said quickly, "not to beg. Just to remind her who the hell you are. You're not some ATM with a beard, Frank. You're her father. She needs to remember that." I didn't reply. I just stared at the framed photo on the bookshelf across from me. Samantha at 12, standing beside me in front of the Lincoln, both of us smiling with grease-streaked faces. I remembered that day. I'd let her help change the spark plugs. She said it made her feel like a real mechanic. I got up, walked to the garage, and opened the door. The Lincoln sat there, quiet, spotless, loyal. I ran my fingers along the hood, feeling the cool metal under my skin. I wasn't going to sell her. Not for anyone. Not for anything. 3 days passed. Then came the text. It was from an unknown number. "Hey Dad, can we talk? Dinner this Sunday. Just you and me. Please." My heart jumped and sank at the same time. Part of me wanted to believe it was genuine. Another part knew better. Still. I replied, "Where?" and got an address to a nice Italian place just across town. Elaine told me not to go alone. "You think Linda won't be there? This smells off." She said it's just me and her. Elaine shook her head. "You raised her, but Linda reprogrammed her." I showed up anyway. Wore my nice button-down. Even cleaned my shoes. A part of me, maybe the father part, maybe the fool, still hoped this was her trying to make things right. I arrived 5 minutes early. Asked the hostess for Samantha Dalton's party. She smiled and led me to a table in the back. That's when I saw them. Linda, seated to the left. 2 men in suits to the right. Samantha in the middle, wearing a tight, forced smile. My gut turned. I stopped walking. Samantha stood and gestured to the empty chair. Dad, thanks for coming. Have a seat. I didn't move. Just looked at her, then at Linda. Linda offered a tight-lipped smirk. We just want to talk, Frank. One of the men, mid-40s, balding, holding a manila folder, spoke up next. Mr. Dalton, I'm Rick Feldman. This is my associate, Corey. We're legal counsel. Legal counsel? I repeated, still frozen. For what? Samantha stepped forward, the folder now in her hands. It's just paperwork. Something to secure the future. You said you wanted to take care of me. Stop, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. Dad, listen, no. You listen. I looked at each of them. I don't know what kind of show this is, but I'm not signing a damn thing. Linda scoffed. Frank, stop being dramatic. Dramatic? I snapped. You ambush me with lawyers and call it dinner. If this is what you think love looks like, I want no part of it. Samantha's face flushed. So that's it. You're cutting me off. I stared straight at her. You cut me off. The day you asked me to trade my dignity for your wedding. The day you blocked me like I was spam mail. She blinked hard, but I didn't care anymore. I turned to leave, and before I walked out, I said it clearly, calmly. Forget I ever existed. I didn't drive home right away. After I walked out of that restaurant, I got in the Lincoln and just sat there with the engine off, staring through the windshield at nothing. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from anger. From the kind of disappointment that doesn't come all at once, but in waves, like a slow flood rising around your ankles until you realize you're already underwater. I knew Samantha had changed. I wasn't blind. But that night told me she wasn't just lost. She was gone. At least, the version of her I raised. The girl who used to make me lopsided birthday cards and cry when I left for overnight jobs, she was nowhere in that room. And if she was, she'd been buried under so much greed and entitlement, I didn't recognize her anymore. I ended up parking outside the city park where I used to take her on Sundays. We'd feed ducks, split soft pretzels, and she'd tell me about whatever drama was going on in school that week. I sat on the same bench, the wood now splintered and warped by years of weather, and I tried to retrace the steps of where I went wrong. Was it the divorce? The long hours? The fact that I couldn't buy her a new phone every time hers cracked like Linda did? I didn't know. Maybe it was all of it. Maybe none of it. Maybe she just saw the world her mother lived in, glossy, performative, manicured, and thought that was the only way to feel loved. Around midnight, I finally drove home. Elaine called the next morning before I was even out of bed. You went, didn't you? She asked. Yep. There was a pause. And she ambushed me. With 2 lawyers and Linda. Jesus, Frank. They tried to get me to sign over my assets. House. Pensions. Everything. Elaine didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, she didn't, she did. Did you sign anything? No. I walked out. Good. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the faded spot on the carpet where my old dresser used to sit. She looked me in the face, handed me legal documents, and said if I really loved her, I'd give her everything. That's not love, Elaine said sharply. That's extortion. She looked like she believed it, though, like she really thought I'd roll over. She learned that somewhere. We didn't say it, but we both knew where. Linda had always been about appearances, always measuring love by gifts and gestures. If I didn't show up with balloons or by the latest gadgets, I was the boring parent, the cheap one, the one who didn't get it. That week, the silence around me turned cold, not the kind that hurts, but the kind that clarifies. I moved through my days like a man cleaning out an attic, lifting memories and setting them down with purpose. I boxed up old photos, Samantha at prom, Samantha's graduation, Samantha in my arms at the hospital wrapped in a pink beanie. I didn't throw them away. I just moved them out of sight. It felt like shelving a version of myself I couldn't be anymore. 3 days after the dinner, the voicemail started. First, Linda. Her voice was fake sweet, layered with passive aggression. Frank, what you did the other night was completely out of line. You embarrassed Samantha. In public. You made her look desperate, when all she wanted was to secure her future. I don't know what kind of man turns his back on his only child, but you should be ashamed. Next, her sister. Frank, Just sign the damn thing. You don't need all that. You're retired. Let her start her life. Don't be vindictive. Then, a call from Samantha. It rang twice before going to voicemail. Her voice cracked like she'd been crying. I didn't know how else to ask, Dad. I'm scared. I'm trying to build something with Evan, and I don't want to start our marriage struggling. You have so much, and I just thought, maybe if I made it formal, it'd feel less like begging. I didn't mean to hurt you. I played that message 10 times. Not because I was moved, but because I couldn't figure out if she really believed what she was saying. The next day, she posted a long, vague status online. Something about toxic family ties and learning to let go of people who only love you when they can control you. Her friends chimed in with heart emojis and virtual hugs. One even commented, "You're so brave for speaking your truth." Meanwhile, my own phone stayed silent. Not one person from her side reached out to ask my version of the truth. No one asked what kind of man sits alone on his porch while his daughter paints him like a villain. But I didn't respond. I didn't correct the record. I wasn't going to fight a PR war with my own child. Elaine came over again that Friday. Brought Chinese food and a bottle of scotch. "You're too quiet," she said, handing me a plate. "What do you want me to say?" She chewed for a while, then said, "You gonna change your will?" "I already did." She looked up, surprised. "I called my lawyer. Took her out of everything. Left the house to charity, car to my godson. Rest goes to a veterans fund." Elaine nodded slowly. "Good. That's good. I never thought I'd have to protect myself from my own kid." Elaine put down her fork. "You didn't fail her, Frank. She failed you." That night, I sat on the back porch and listened to the sound of summer cicadas buzzing through the dark. I used to think peace was something you found after you retired, after you paid off the mortgage, after the kids grew up. But I was starting to understand something deeper. Peace isn't found. It's chosen. It's fought for. And sometimes, it costs more than you ever expected. I thought cutting her out of the will would bring some sense of relief, like snapping a rotten branch from a tree before it could infect the rest. But if anything, it made the silence louder. Every night, I'd sit in the same chair on the back porch, whiskey in hand, and stare out into the dark, trying to uncoil the tension in my chest. Peace didn't show up like a sudden sunrise. It came in small moments. Choosing not to answer the phone when her name popped up again, ignoring another passive-aggressive post from Linda, declining a brunch invitation from a cousin who'd clearly taken sides. But it also came with a heavy cost: isolation. The storm rolled in on a Sunday morning. Elaine called me first. "Frank, you're not gonna like this." "What now?" "She posted about you again. Publicly. Tagged people this time." I didn't check it right away. I made coffee, watered the plants, even vacuumed the hallway before I opened Facebook like I was disarming a bomb. And there it was, Samantha's face, filtered and tear-streaked, in a photo carousel beside screenshots of a typed statement. The caption read, "Some of you know what I've been going through. Others are about to find out. I never thought I'd be the daughter of a man who could turn so cold." I didn't need to read the rest, but I did. Every word. She painted me as a heartless miser who refused to support her future. Claimed I withheld emotional and financial support her whole life, only to slam the door in her face during her most vulnerable moment. The legal ambush? Omitted. The demands to hand over property? Glossed over as a small, private request to help me and my fiancé get on our feet. Then came the comments. "I'm so sorry, Sam. You deserve better. Cutting out toxic parents is self-care. What kind of father disowns his daughter over money? He's probably a narcissist. They hate when you have boundaries." Boundaries? I felt like screaming. I'm the one setting boundaries. But I didn't comment. I didn't call. I didn't run to defend myself because I knew how these things go. Public opinion doesn't want nuance. It wants a villain. And I was wearing the mask they gave me. By Monday, I'd gotten 3 voicemails from extended family. One was from Linda's brother, Paul. "I don't know what your issue is, Frank, but she's your daughter. You don't just cut family off like that. It's disgusting. You're a bitter old man." Another from my niece, Amber. "Just sign over the house, Uncle Frank. You don't need it. Let the next generation have something." And one from someone I hadn't heard from in 5 years, an old family friend named Dottie, who ended her message with, "I never took you for the petty type. I played each one once, then deleted them. That afternoon, I drove to my lawyer's office to finalize the revised will. The building was small, brick-faced, with peeling paint on the front door, humble, like the man himself. Mr. Carlson had represented me during the divorce and again when I bought the house in '03. He knew me, knew I wasn't the monster floating around online. "You sure about this?" he asked, looking up from the papers. "Dead sure. She might contest it. Let her try." He hesitated a moment. "You want to leave a letter?" "For when this is read." I paused, thought about it, then nodded. "Yeah, I'll write something." I went home and sat at the kitchen table, same spot where I used to help Samantha with math homework, and wrote a letter I hoped she'd never read. It wasn't cruel, just clear. I told her I loved her, but love didn't mean surrendering to manipulation. That real family doesn't show up with lawyers. That trust, once broken, takes more than tears and public sympathy to rebuild. I ended it with 5 words I still stand by. I chose peace over performance. Later that week, something unexpected happened. I went to get a haircut, same place I'd gone for over a decade, and noticed the barber, Todd, was unusually quiet. Normally, we'd joke around or talk baseball. This time, it was strictly business. As I stood to leave, he said, "Hey, about that thing online. With your daughter." I turned slowly. "Yeah. I just want to say, I get it. My dad cut off my brother last year for similar stuff. It's not easy, but sometimes you gotta do what's right for your own sanity." I nodded, genuinely taken aback. "Thanks, Todd. People talk," he said, shrugging. "But they don't live in your shoes." It was the first real moment of validation I'd gotten outside of Elaine. Later that night, Elaine came by with more groceries and asked, "You holding up?" "I'm trying." "You know," she said, leaning on the counter, "you could go on Facebook. Tell your side." "I could," I said, "but I won't." "Why not?" "Because the people who matter know. And the ones who believe her version? They were never in my corner to begin with." She smiled, sadly. "You're stronger than me." "No, just older. I've learned where peace lives." I walked her out to her car and stood for a long time in the driveway, watching the wind rustle the trees. The Lincoln sat parked in the garage, untouched but steady. A symbol of everything I still had, everything I'd fought to keep. I didn't lose my daughter that week. I lost the illusion of who she was. And in some strange way, that loss was clarifying. Painful, yes, but also freeing. The first Saturday in August came with a heat that clung to everything: shirts, skin, even moods. The air felt heavy with something more than just humidity. I spent the morning cleaning out the garage, not because it needed it, but because it gave my hands something to do. I pulled down old boxes, sorted tools, swept the concrete until there wasn't a speck left. Every hour I didn't think about Samantha was a small victory, and that day, I needed a few. Around 3 p.m., I heard the doorbell ring. I wiped my hands on a rag, unsure who'd show up without calling first. When I opened the door, there she stood, Carly, Samantha's best friend since middle school. I hadn't seen her in over a year, not since her college graduation party where she hugged me tight and said, "You're the only dad I ever had around." She looked the same, freckles, anxious energy, long curls twisted into a bun. But her face was tight with something else now. Purpose. Hesitation. "Hi, Mr. Dalton." "Carly, you are surprising. Can I come in? Just for a few minutes." I stepped aside, motioning her in. "You want water?" She shook her head. "I won't stay long." She sat on the edge of the living room chair like it might swallow her whole if she leaned back too far. I stood, arms crossed, leaning on the back of the couch. "She doesn't know I'm here," she started. "Sam." Figured as much. I saw the post. The comments. I've been biting my tongue for weeks, and look, I don't want to get in the middle. But I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I raised an eyebrow. "You came all this way to defend her?" "No," she said quickly. "I came to say you're not crazy, or cruel, or cold. You're just done. And I think you have every right to be." That stopped me for a moment. I didn't realize how much I needed someone to say it out loud. She told me about the dinner. Carly went on, looking down. "Well, her version. But I was there the next morning when she was still gloating about how she put you in a corner. How she had the paperwork all lined up like it was a game. It made me sick." She said that? I asked, my voice low. She did. And I told her she was being heartless. She said, he's just an old man. He doesn't need all that. Carly looked up at me. That's when I knew she wasn't the Sam I grew up with. I don't know who that girl is now. I nodded, slowly. Neither do I. She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I know it's none of my business, but I wrote her a letter. I was going to give it to her. But I think maybe you should read it instead. I took the letter but didn't open it. Thanks, Carly. I'm sorry, she said, standing. I just wanted you to know not everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. Some of us remember how much you did for her. For all of us. I walked her to the door. She turned back before leaving. I hope she wakes up one day. But if she doesn't, you're still not wrong. When she left, I sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the letter. I didn't read it. Not right away. I wasn't sure I wanted to know what was written about my daughter, even if it was the truth. That night, I poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, stepped outside, and stared up at the stars. Something about them felt steadier than anything down here. They blinked the same way they did when I held Samantha in my arms for the first time. When I taught her to ride a bike. When I clapped the loudest at her high school graduation. People don't talk enough about the grief of losing someone who's still alive. It's not like death. It's more complicated. There's no funeral, no casseroles, no clean goodbyes. Just a slow unthreading of everything you thought was unbreakable. The next morning, I boxed up the last of her things from the attic. Old trophies, yearbooks, her prom dress still in the plastic wrap from the cleaners. I didn't throw them out. Just labeled the box Samantha and set it in the back corner. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. I had to accept that chapter was closed. 2 days later, Linda showed up. No warning. No call. Just her shiny Lexus in my driveway like a bad omen. She knocked hard. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. Frank. Linda. She tilted her head. We need to talk. About. You're embarrassing her. All this online silence. Refusing to correct the narrative. It makes you look guilty. I am silent. That's not guilt. That's restraint. She sighed, annoyed. She's spiraling. You know that, right? Crying all the time. Getting cold feet. This could ruin her wedding. That sounds like her problem. She's your daughter. No. She's your project now. You made her this way. Entitled, manipulative, transactional. And you can keep her. Linda's jaw clenched. You're being selfish. I stepped closer, calm and clear. No. I'm being sane. For the first time in years, I'm choosing my peace over your gimmicks. And if that means losing both of you, so be it. She blinked hard, then turned without another word. I closed the door behind her slowly, like sealing off a room I'd never step into again. That night, I finally read Carly's letter. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet, aching honesty. She talked about who Sam used to be, how she changed, how Frank was the only man in their lives who ever stayed true to his word. It ended with this line, some bridges burn themselves, and maybe that's a mercy. She was right. It's strange how quickly the world forgets your drama when you stop feeding it. After Linda's driveway ambush and Samantha's smear campaign hit its saturation point, the noise tapered off. The phone stopped ringing. The notifications slowed. I wasn't the villain of the week anymore. I was just another old man with a stubborn streak and a story that didn't end the way people expected. And that, I've learned, is where the real peace starts. Not with applause, not with redemption arcs, but with the absence of chaos. With quiet mornings. With clean floors and uncluttered thoughts. I took a trip the following week. Not far, just upstate to a little cabin I used to rent back when Samantha was in middle school. It sat tucked in a forest clearing by a slow river, the kind of place that made you breathe a little deeper without realizing it. No TV, spotty cell reception. Just me, a deck of cards, a box of firewood, and a dog-eared copy of The Old Man and the Sea. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even Elaine. I needed a place where no one expected anything from me. That first night in the cabin, I built a fire and sat outside watching the flames curl and snap. I thought about the version of myself I had been for most of my life. A provider, a fixer, a man who absorbed stress like insulation, thinking it made me strong. And maybe it did. But somewhere along the line, I confused endurance with love. I believed that if I kept giving, eventually people would see the depth of my sacrifice. But that's the lie, isn't it? Sacrifice doesn't always earn loyalty. Sometimes, it just teaches people to keep taking. In the quiet, I allowed myself to grieve, not just for the relationship I'd lost, but for the father I had tried so hard to be. I wept, for the first time in years, and not out of weakness, but out of sheer release. The tears weren't just for Samantha. They were for every version of me that twisted himself into knots trying to be enough. On the third day, I found an old photo in my wallet. Samantha at age 7, sitting on the hood of the Lincoln, her arm draped over my shoulder like she owned the world. We were smiling. Real smiles. I didn't throw it away. I tucked it into the back of my journal. Because even though she broke me in ways she'll never fully understand, I won't let bitterness rewrite my memories. The love I gave was real. That's what matters. When I got home, Elaine was waiting on my porch with 2 mugs of coffee and that same concerned tilt to her brow. Jesus, Frank, you disappear now? I needed a reset. You look different. Feel different. She handed me a mug. Didn't miss much here. Facebook drama died down. Sam hasn't posted anything new in over a week. I nodded but said nothing. I didn't care what she posted anymore. I wasn't checking. That part of me, the part that needed to monitor every digital ripple to understand where I stood, was gone. Elaine sat beside me. You ever think she'll come around? Maybe, but I won't be waiting. She smiled softly. That's something. We sipped coffee in silence, and I thought about how long it had been since silence felt like peace instead of punishment. The yard was quiet. The Lincoln sat in the driveway, freshly washed, still gleaming. I decided I'd take it out for a drive later. No destination, just the open road. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Samantha's. My hands trembled as I opened it, not out of hope, but bracing for one last demand. It wasn't long, just a few lines. Dad, I don't know if you'll read this. I'm not ready to say sorry yet, but I'm not ready to hate you either. I thought you were punishing me, but maybe you were just protecting yourself. I'm starting to understand that. I hope you're okay. Sam. I didn't cry. I didn't reply. I folded it, put it in the same journal pocket as the photo, and closed the book. That was the redemptive note. Not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. A hint that somewhere, deep in whatever storm she's navigating, a part of her still remembers the man I was. I'll take that. Because peace, I've learned, isn't about fixing broken things. It's about knowing when to let them be. It's the discipline to say, I have done enough. And when I look in the mirror now, I see a man who stood his ground. Not out of spite, but because self-preservation isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Have you ever had to choose peace over family? When love turns into manipulation, sometimes the hardest and most powerful thing you can do is walk away. If this story spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. And if you believe in stories that put truth, healing, and boundaries first, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more raw, real-life family drama. Your story matters, and you're not alone. See you soon in the next story.